Today's wildlife project is a continuation of our series on hummingbird feeders, and this time we're going to make the ultimate feeder station, which will be perfect when flocks of hummingbirds visit your house this fall during their migration. Let's get started. As usual, we need to gather the materials. You're going to need some scrap wood. For this project, I'm using an old piece of tongue and groove siding that's about 6 feet long. This one's going to end up holding 12 feeder stations, but you can adjust the length for your project based on what materials you have and how many feeders you want. You're also going to need a drill, some pliers, wire, a screwdriver, a straight edge, a square, a tape measure, and a hole saw. We'll talk more about that in a second. And while you're gathering materials, grab some clamps, a glue gun, and some paint. And we can't forget the most important ingredient of all, the item that will pull this whole project together, soy sauce bottles. Yep, you heard that right. So where do you get empty soy sauce bottles? Well, I bought mine from a restaurant supply company for about $2 each. I'll put the link in the description below, but for now, let's get working. The board I'm using is about 6 inches wide, but again, try and use what you have available. Just make sure that it's not too narrow. Now the first thing we're going to do is make a line down the center of the board. Next, we're going to make a line a few inches from each end of the board. Let's call this the edge line. This is just to mark out an area that we'll have available for support when we hang our project. Our soy sauce bottles are about 2.5 inches wide, but make sure that you measure yours because there are several different styles. Place your soy sauce bottle along the edge line and make a little mark where the middle of your bottle lines up against the line you drew down the center of the board. For the spacing between the bottles, I'm using a bolt that's 3.5 inches long. It's just something that I had handy. A scrap of paper or a chunk of wood will work just as good. Again, use what you have available. Continue marking where the middle of each bottle will line up along the center line of your board. Now take your board and put some scrap wood spacers underneath and then use your clamps to hold it in place. The attachment we're going to use is called a hole saw, and they're available in different sizes. Because the soy sauce bottle tapers, each size will let the bottle sit at a different height. Here's an example. From left to right, I drilled a 2-inch hole, then 2 1/8, then 2 1/4, and finally 2 1/2. I think the 2 1/4 inch is the best one to use, but again, always measure your bottles before you start drilling. On each of your marks, use the hole saw. These cut slower than a normal drill bit, so be patient. After each cut, make sure that you pop out the wooden circle. A screwdriver works best for this. Okay, we're done with the hole saw, and it's time to move to the next step. Turn the board on its side and use a drill bit that's a little bit larger than the wire you have. You're going to make some holes about 2 inches deep in the edge of the board. These are where the perch wires will go. I usually drill one for every 2 feeding stations on the board. Now if the holes are too tight for the wire, you'll have problems gluing them in later on, so make sure that the wire slides in easily. The next thing you're going to do is cut some of your wire about 7 inches long and then curl one side of it using your pliers. The best wire that I've found to use is the plastic coated clothesline wire. Now drill a pair of holes on each end of the board. This is where your hanger wire will go. And speaking of hanger wires, make them about 20 inches long. It's time to paint your board. Make sure that you get inside the holes where your feeders will go, and since this will be outside, give it at least 2 coats of paint. Everything is looking good, so once the paint is dry, take your hanger wires and attach them to the board like this. Now it's time to install the perch wires. Just add a little bit of glue in the hole and then slide the wire inside. Believe it or not, you're almost done. If you want to paint decorations on your feeder, now would be the time. I'm going to leave this one just plain blue. Our final step is to wash out the soy sauce bottles and then fill them with the hummingbird nectar. 4 cups of water mixed with 1 cup of sugar is the best ratio. You do not need to add any coloring. Make sure that you clean out the bottles every time before refilling them, and don't leave them out for more than 2 days without switching out the nectar and cleaning the bottles again. Thank you for watching this wildlife project, and please take a moment to like and subscribe to our channel.